Hello everybody and welcome to part 4 of our simple tutorial series. Today we'll be doing a very simple, straightforward plate girder, a custom plate beam. So it's exercise 4, custom plate girder, and create. Let's close this. So if we head up to beams, we'll see that there are already a couple of different options when doing something like a plate girder. For example, you can take a WI or a PHI. WI, you put in your own amounts, sizes, and get it exactly the way you want it to be. You can also have it go large and smaller, have different sizes for the front and back. And you can mostly do the same with the second one. But we are not going to do any of this today. What we'll be doing is making our own. So firstly, I'm going to open up my grid lines and I'm going to state it down to be, let's see, make this 5 meters in length. Width, we don't have to need anything, and height, we're simply going to have a bottom and a top, since we'll only be doing this one item. 1005 should do. Modify this and close. Once that's done, I'm going to reduce my work area by fitting it. Here we go. Next thing, not really needed, but I'm going to change one to CL, since this is a center line. Then I'm going to right click, create a long grid lines to get views on all my grids. Let's open up center line and work from here. Starting off, I would like to lay out everything using construction lines. I'll put at the top, going down, bottom, and back up. This is just so that I can lay out all the rough positions of all the objects or items I'd like to put in. So firstly, I would like to have this beam multiple sizes. It's going to start off at 1500 and it's going to end off at 1100. But I don't want a gradual change. I want most of it to be 1100 and only a small area 1005. So this might not make great sense, but I'm going to copy this 1500 to the side and copy it another 1000. And that's going to be my change point. From here, I'm going to copy this bottom up by 400 and draw another construction line between these 2 points. And that's going to give us the rough outline of what we would like for our plate girder. Now, for the parts, I'm not going to use any of this. Firstly, I'm going to change this to plate. I can change the assembly mark to PG for plate girder and change that to plate girder. Now, for the section size, we are going to be using a plate that is 40 thick and 600 wide. I'm going to change the color to 1, and for now I'm not going to change anything else. Apply and put it in. As we can see here, it's currently facing down, so we'll head on over to position and start changing our rotation. It's below my line, it's in the center, and it's facing down. So that is good. When it comes to these at the bottom, I don't want the part to be below, I would like to be above, so I'm going to change it to front. Apply, get rid of the part, and just put it back in again, and we'll see it's nice on the front, and from there we can put it in the rest of the way. And this is going to be our flanges. Now I'll of course need to cut away these clashing areas, but we can do that at a later stage. For now I want to put in the web. So I'll take these two lines and either copy or move them up, and that's so that I can get a connection point between those two, or an intersection point more precisely. And the reason for this is my web. The web is just going to be a normal contour plate heading from corner to corner to the beginning, and I can either click in the beginning or I can middle mouse button and it will finish off. As you can see, it's fairly thin, so we'll need to change this to something a little bit thicker, and we're going to be using a 20 thick plate for our web. Color wise, I'd like it to be the same as the rest, so I'm going to change it to be the same as the rest. Now for the next part, I would like to sort out this clash over there, as well as add some rat holes. Now for these rat holes, you can double click on any of our nodes, and we are going to select this one over here using 50, modify, and you'll see we got a nice cut out there for welding, and of course drainage for galvanizing. Next I'm going to hold in Alt and do an area selection around the entire item. This is going to select all my points, and I'm going to modify my chamfer properties so that all of them change into these rat holes. Close that up. Next, I would like to cut away the unnecessary material, and because this is a fairly thick plate girder, I would like to have quite a good amount of welding, and to that end I am going to cut away some of the plate to make space for the welding. To do this, I'll put in a 20 circle so that when I use a line cut, I can use the 2 points of this circle to cut away that corner. I can either put in a new circle or just move this one over to another line cut from the 2 points and get rid of that side as well. Now for the one over here, I will need to do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do now is Control 2 to get a nice transparent view. I'm going to move this line to the middle over there. This bottom line over here, I'm also going to move to the center of that item. And the reason for that is simply so that I can shorten the beam, but you don't necessarily have to shorten it. You could always use a fit part end and just cut it at that length. Basically, I don't want these two crossing each other. I want them to intersect in the middle. Now from here, I'll again be doing 2 circles, one for each side. Cut out the corners so that we could fill that up with welding. So take a line cut, select our item. Now it's the rightmost one for this one, and the leftmost for this one over here. snap to it. So I'm just going to delete those, re-enter it, see if it doesn't snap now. Cut line over there, yes it does snap, and just put that in over there. Wonderful. Now sometimes it will happen that Tekla doesn't snap. Either just redo the snap or try and change it up and it might work. Otherwise, try a different method. Try copying a line 20 back or something along those lines. After this is done, I'm now going to add a set of stiffener plates. I think, yes, stiffener plates should be next. So for these stiffener plates, we've got one of two options. We can either do it manually, or we could try and deceive the program a little bit. Now, I'm going to do one manually and another in a different method, just to show you both methods. Neither of them are incorrect, they're simply just preference. So for the first method, I'm going to go to my selection, go to beam, and get my WI. So the height I would like as, let's say, we'll do the small side, so it's 1100. The web thickness is 20, the flange thickness is 40, and the width is 600. Okay, and we would like our position behind, apply, and I'm just going to put it from anywhere over here to anywhere over there. Let's change this to top, and there we've got it. And as you can see, both on the side and from the front, it overlays my current beam perfectly. So that's good, that's what I want. Now for stiffeners on this one, I'm going to use the existing stiffener component, which is 1003. Over here, stiffener, I'm going to select my beam, I'm going to select my point, and it will put in this stiffener component according to that. Let's go to isometric and have a quick look at it. Now what's nice about this is it's fairly easy to set it up exactly the way you want it. So we can say you want both of them to be 20 thick and 250 wide. And of course we can go to our parameters, say that we would like a arc and change that 50, so we've got the exact same arc we've been using on the other side. Once this is done and you're happy with the stiffener, simply select the component, right click, and explode it. Now it's no longer a component but simply parts. After this we will select the new piece we put in and delete it, and it will leave our new stiffener behind. The other method of doing this is the traditional method of creating a view, getting a section view, and then from that section view, let's just make this I think about 100 should do. I don't want to see the other one. And just do a contour plate. So parts, select 250, down, back, confirm, and then we'll double click on one of these holes so that we can get the settings, select the two insides and modify. So those are the two main methods. Let's get this over to the other side by copy rotating. So copy special rotate, stick that over there and copy it over. Now the particular one you use does not matter at all. Do what is most comfortable for you. Sometimes you will have to do this manually by necessity. Other times you can simply get a component that'll get you somewhat there, and you can get the rest on your own. After this, we are going to copy it linear in the X direction by another 900. Copy. Take this one, and we're going to copy it back by 1550. And just to ensure that I did not mess up my numbers at any point, I'm going to do the last 1300. Yes, it ends directly at the back, and I can now undo that. I don't need anything at the back. I simply did that to ensure that the numbers I was using for these have been correct. If I did enter an incorrect number at some point, then my stiffness would not have ended exactly at the end where they did. Okay. Now, select them, Alt select the nodes. Do Alt select as if you only select it by click, you would only select the one node on one part. If you do Alt select, you select all four of them. Be aware that even though you see it in 2D, it is still a 3D structure. Good. Now, once we've got this, we will need to do another item, and we're going to do a stiffener in between these two with a couple of holes in. And that's going to be 500 down. So, take the top line and either move or copy it 500 down. From here we'll go and get our view by 2 points. Just get 2 points on that line, and this will give us our top view. Once we're done with that, we can go over to steel, open this up. Yes, that is 20. Let's confirm and put it in from corner to corner. And of course, we're going to go up by 200, so it's a little bit smaller than the stiffness, and get it perpendicular over to the other side. And for the last point, I like to just confirm with middle mouse button. I'm going to open that up again, get these two inside corners, and modify to get our rat holes in. Now, for our holes that we would like to put in here, we're going to do diameter 22 holes, 465 from the inside over there. So I'm going to start off with bolts, select that one, confirm, and I'm going to use these 2 points to put it in. Firstly, I would like to get my bolt a little bit forward to its correct position, so I'm going to say 465, modify. From here I would like to move it up, and I'm going to pick either depth or plane. I believe it should be on plane, and I'm going to move it 100 out. It's incorrect distance side, so I'm going to minus that, and there it's on the correct side. Then I'm going to take off the bolt to get it to be a hole only, and from here I'm going to say in the X direction I would like 300 and 300 2 bolts. And just to make sure that these are center, I'm going to select the last bolt and measure to the back, and this is just so that I can ensure it is the same as the front. Again, if you're doing something that should be in the middle of an item and you're working a dimension from the side, do measure both sides once you're done, just to ensure that you did not mess up somewhere. And after that, we'll need to pick 2 points in the center. Usually you'll have this large snap. See, this bar larger than the other one to show that's the center, or you can go over to a see-through view, Control 2, or you can head on all the way over to the end where you can get a middle of or a grid for your snap. Let's copy this over, close that, and we can close this view, no longer require it. Head on back to isometric, and for the next part, usually I would say always select the main part first and then weld the subparts to it, but as you can see our subparts are all over the place, so I'm going to select the web as my main part and just select everything to weld to it. Now I would still like to have this top as my main part, so I'm going to select it, right click, head on down to assembly and set it as the main part of the assembly. Once this is done, I'm going to head on over to drawings reports and number modified objects. This will assign a number to the object, and then I'm going to head over here and look for my auto drawing wizard, and I'm going to run a Sable Sea alternate landscape. This you could use whatever your local preference is, or any one that you've set up or that your company has set up previously. Now let's go over to our drawing list, open that up over here, and for this particular one, I only want to ensure that everything is lowercase p. I'm not really going to open up and worry about these drawings. I would like to open up my PG assembly drawing though. Close this and modify this. As you can see, not a drawing that can be used. For this, I'm going to open up and I am going to load a very specific one called assembly no dimensions. And the reason for this is I don't really like the way Tekla does it, so I would like to do it myself. Tekla can of course be set up to do a lot of these drawings quite decently, but for this purpose and for most odd types of structures and assemblies, you will have to do a good portion of editing manually. I'm going to call this a plate girder. I'm going to head on over to my layout. I'd like this to be an A2 landscape. Scale, I'm thinking 7.5 should be good. If not, we could always just change that to whatever works. I'd also like a couple other things. Firstly, let's go look at this view creation. Section view. I don't think anything here will really help. What I would like to do is just get rid of that. I'm gonna keep that one there, and I'm gonna get rid of all the other views. This view here is a good starting point. I'm just gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna open this up. Now, normally Tekla would give this as a bottom view because we are looking at the bottom of this specific blade. Remember, we put it on its side, so front is from there, this is from either the back or the bottom, the top or the bottom, and underneath is below. Now, I would like this to be, let's look at a 10 size. That's close enough. Up until the point where we can quickly either shorten it a lot longer or just turn it off altogether. Now we can see if it fits in, and no, it does not. So let's up this to 15, and 15 appears to be quite a good size. Again, this is a single part in a drawing, so the orientation of the part is not really going to matter, as I'll mostly be using section views and not really any specific views made from this part. So I'm going to change this to side elevation to tell me that this is from the side. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to get that colored in look back. So I'm going to head on over to part. I'm going to say fill. I'd like it to be solid with a special color. Modify, and this is going to give me a nice solid item. Next, I'm going to turn off that one and apply, as I'd like to keep the rest of the settings. Close that up. Next, I want a 3D view, but I'd also like to change these information. So I'm going to close up this drawing just for a moment and go add the information I probably should have added to start. So we'll head on over to this drop down menu, go to project properties, add edit, and we'd like to change our client name over there to CAID. We'd like to change our project number to CPG-001 custom plate girder. Our name of our project is going to be custom plate girder. For a description of our structure, let's put our custom plate over there and change our name, project name, to something like Finas Heavy Industry. And we'll make our site, say, 42 Elm Street. Add your initials, and for the rest of the stuff, I don't think it really matters. Now you can use a custom set of information in a custom info block or a custom drawing block that I've got over here, but if you don't, it doesn't matter. Once you're done, say apply, so you don't lose the work and have to retype it. After that's done, I'm going to change my 3D view to, let's see if we load it, take off everything. I only really want those two changed, and I think this looks good. It's a nice 3D view of the item. We've got all the sides we want. So head on back to the list, open up the drawing, just change the title to Plate Girder, save this. Yes, it did take this time, and from here I'm going to go just to the isometric view. Now, as you can see at the top here, we are still inside the drawing properties. We are simply looking at our model from the properties. And from here we are going to go over to views, and we're going to say we would like a area in the model, and we're going to select our area. This area will be the plate girder, and this will give us this ugly little thing over here, which we can make larger or smaller and play around with until we've got the entire item. Now I don't want any of these marks, and I don't think I want this thing to be see-through either, so I'm going to go into the part properties and I'm going to turn off the hidden lines. Here we go. I'm also going to go and take that side's holes, hide them, I don't want to see them either, and this is going to give us a nice view. Open this up, head on over to attributes, label. Now, we did apply the side elevation, so I'm going to change this to isometric view, or you could make it 3D view. That is completely up to your preference in what you want to call it. Next, I'm going to space it nicely here in the corner, out of the way. I'm also going to take the title and just move it out of my title block. And I want to make sure to leave enough space over here for my revision marks once I'm done. This one over here can move a little bit up, and I'm going to add part marks to everything. That one's not needed as it's on the back, and I don't think this is needed either, but we can leave it in there. For now, it does not make much difference. For our web, I think I'm going to just change it to be somewhere inside and move it roughly over there, and that'll look fairly good. Now from this I'm going to create a section view, and the section view will show me all these other parts that I don't necessarily see. Firstly, I'm going to make one of my large stiffeners over there, and as you can see, because it already had section views to begin with, even though it no longer has anything, it'll continue on with that mark. Next, I am going to do the same for this one over here, to get the other side, and I'm going to make one section view of this piece, and I'm going to put it over here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up that and change this to A. Do note, once you change that, it'll change this one as well, so you're more than welcome to change around your section marks when TechLab doesn't use the correct one or the preferred one. You'll also find that sometimes, for some odd reason, TechLab will reset and start using A again, even though you do have an A, so it's good to change them as needed. It can be over there. This one I'm going to move over there. This one over here. Now I would like these two heights to be the same at the top, so I'm going to right click and tell it to align. Let's say horizontally, I want the horizontal to be the same. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to section mark. Using section mark, I'm just going to put in 2 more section marks, and this is just the mark and not the view as well. Once I've done that, I'm going to go to both of them and change them both to B. And this will show that all three of these are B, which basically means they're the same, and since all of them have the same part, I know they are the same. Once here, I'm going to take my stiffeners and just mark them, and the same with this side, mark them, and this one here, just mark them. Now, I like the way these two are right up against it, and this one, it kind of can decide, does it want against or does it want there. So I'm going to open up all of them. I'm going to go to General after selecting and say I'd like them to be fairly inside, and they'll put them inside. Once I'm done with this, I can of course put in dimensions, and I think sizes if needed. So let's say 40 at the top, in between 40. Do the same for this one. I don't really think I need to give the widths in here or here, but what I would like to do is just add a note about these rat holes. To that end, I'm going to go to, let's say, drawings. I'm going to find a text note with the leader, and I'm going to pick any one of these, and this will give me a nice little text note. Opening that up, I would like the color to be green on my frame, and that'll make my arrow visible. I'm also going to give this a little arrow, just a small one, nothing too wide. Let's make this 1 millimeter, something like that, with a R50 and TYB in brackets. And this will just tell them that all of these are atypical of 50. Great way to just do one note and not have to worry about any of the rest. Next, let's just move this a little bit more to the side so that I've got some space to do some more dimensions. Dimension wise, firstly, I would like an overall dimension. Now, as you can see, mine disappeared, and that's because Tekla put it automatically on hidden. For some odd reason, I'm just going to change this to visible and apply the setting, and at least for this instance it shouldn't bother anymore. Later we will do a more permanent change, but for now this is good enough. And that one over there. Now, I don't need to have the bottom, but I think I will add it in any way. And of course I will need at some point just to add a dimension that shows what's going on with this one over here. The reason I have it from the bottom of the flange instead of from the top at 500 is because it's underneath this dimension and I don't want it to interfere with this dimension. It looks just a bit neater this way. Next we would like the overall up top. Then we want one that goes between all of these stiffener plates. Now for this one that goes between the stiffener plates, I would like them to be a rolling dimension. So I'm going to open up and head on over here and change it to this third option that's showing both dimensions there and at the ends. This will give me a rolling dimension, and that makes it a little bit easier for some of the workshops to get all the correct points on which to weld. since they can only really do one measurement straight through and just tick off at the correct distances instead of working out. Next, I would like that over there, and over there. As you can see, I've got it 1,500, 1,000, and I put it right over here in the air. Now, because I fit part end instead of moving it back, it does provide a snap right up in the air. If it did not, and you want a snap over there somewhere, I would suggest drawing a line either side. Take that line and just move it down. Just move it across, and once this is done, for the sake of neatness, I'll just move it back and do the same with this one. Just move it back a bit. And without really doing much to my visuals, it gives me a new point to snap to. Now, for this one over here, I would like to give the position of my holes. So I'm just going to do a cross center with that over there. And as you can see, they decided to put it like that. So I'm just going to bring both of these out. For a nice look like that. Besides those ones, I want from the inside a measurement to each and every hole, back to the inside over here. And I don't want this to be to add 300 equals 600. I would like actual 2 dimensions. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to go to grouping and just tell it combined dimensions, no. So that I've got single dimensions. It looks a lot nicer. Grouping is good for something like a stair where you've got boards of dimensions, but for this, I feel this is a lot neater. Next, now this is colored in, and this is also colored in, but a much darker shade. So it still stands out, but the dark on the dark doesn't stand out that much. So instead of having a solid, I'm going to change this to another symbol, number 2, and that just gives me the cross with a circle, and that'll be much easier to see. Once that's done, I believe that should be everything. We can save that, head on back to our drawings. I'm going to issue this drawing to get the issue mark, as well as add a revision mark. This is going to be the first revision, so 01, created by me, created today's date, and I don't think anything else is there necessary. Description, issued for approval, and I'm going to save this as 01. Make sure you save all your issues, especially if you have to redo drawing or add drawings later and you've got a couple of these to add. It's good, a lot easier just to load them up than to rewrite them out every time. Now, if we open this up again, we'll see it was revised and issued for approval. And of course, the useful feature of the issue is if we save, it'll tell me my issued drawings changed, and I'll keep that there. Okay, and that's it.